And take 5. Oh my God, bro. You would not believe how many lives that I've been making trying to get my words together. I haven't slept well and I've been tortured during the night. So even though I've had like a good couple of power naps today, so I'm relatively well rested. It's just a struggle getting my words together. So I'll try to be as concise as I can and try to be as clear as I can so that, it can be made clear to everybody exactly what's going on. So the reason why I've made this video is because I was tagged in, let's call this person Voldemort. I was tagged in one of their videos. I don't know what the fuck they wanted to say now, and I don't care either. So if I don't want to watch their videos and I don't care what they have to say, then why am I making a video in response? Well, the first thing is that the video in response is not for them, it's for TIs. The second reason is that I want to point out something to you all that I've observed with regards to this person's pattern of behavior. The first thing is that whenever they stumble upon one of my videos talking about how my health is deliberately misdiagnosed in order to, facilitate the murder of TIs, whenever I talk about that, this person either tags me in one of their videos or they make some sort of sexual harassment joke, or they sexually harass me about my breasts and what they look like and stuff. So because they don't have a legitimate argument as to, what I've said, they have no legitimate argument to counter anything that I've said in the video that they're commenting on. What they'll rely upon instead is attempting to trigger you. Classic narcissistic standard: when all else fails, just act dumb in order to trigger the person. So there was one video in which they did that. And I think in that particular video in which they, this person sexually harassed me, Voldemort sexually harassed me, was when I was wearing a pink top. And I was talking about how my health was misdiagnosed in a bid to make out like I was more mentally unstable than I was, and thus to make out as if my targeting isn't real, because that's what's happening with literally everybody who identifies as a TI. They're slapped with the paranoid schizophrenic label immediately, which has a huge effect on the life quality of each TI. And not only that, it affects our ability to admit evidence of harassment, of stalking, of even our remote torture. Even when we have wounds that are quite obviously from remote torture, they're not looked at, and instead they're treated as delusions, right? And instead the injuries that we get, they're treated as psychosomatic. Again, like the machinations around trying to silence TIs is way more bonkers than anything that we could ever come up with. But okay. So whenever I talk about things like that on my channel, and whenever Voldemort doesn't have a legitimate argument to counter me with, he will rely on sexual harassment, or he will rely on tagging me in a video, just being relentlessly harassing, just relentlessly harassing me and relentlessly harassing anybody who he disagrees with or who he thinks is a targeted individual, just relentlessly harassing us, right? That's what I noticed. So in a previous video that I made talking about my health issues, I think I talked about the deaths of TIs and how the paranoid schizophrenic diagnosis of TIs facilitates the murder of TIs. I think I actually made a point about that when I made that pink top video. And once again, like I said, because he didn't have a legitimate argument to counter what I was saying in that video, he talked about my breasts, because sexual harassment is Voldemort's go-to. I've said that several times already during this video. Now, with this tagging of me in his latest video, I don't know what he's saying about me. I don't care what he's saying about me, because I already know what he's going to say and I already know what he's going to do. He has narcissistic personality disorder and sociopathic tendencies. I already know what he's going to say and do. I am not interested what comes out of that dick sucker. What I am interested in is why I was tagged in the video. And nothing that comes out of his mouth could tell me as reliably as what he does. The reason why he tagged me in one of his videos is because, once again, I made a video about paranoid schizophrenia and the effects of paranoid schizophrenia, or the symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia, what parts of the body malfunction in a paranoid schizophrenic person, all that type of stuff. Like I had an extensive list on that video. You can go and check it out on YouTube. I'll link it when I upload this video. I had an extensive list of what causes paranoid schizophrenia, or at the very least, what makes somebody vulnerable to paranoid schizophrenia. And I mentioned that all the parts of my body that were fired upon, like my kidneys, where the adrenal glands are, the middle of my head, where my CR1 receptors are, and my third eye, and my thyroid, they love to attack the thyroid of certain TIs. They love to attack the thyroid. It doesn't just affect your singing, it affects your mental health because it's part of the endocrine system. And these parts of the body that I'm talking about, when there's a malfunction with the endocrine system, that's when symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia can come about. So I'm being hit on all these parts of the body, and I've also been hit in the middle of my chest before. So all of these parts of my body being hit, what they're designed to do is to create a manic episode in the TI, is to actually create paranoid schizophrenia in the TI. So they're killing two birds with one stone, essentially. So, or at least that's what they're attempting to do. So they're attempting to actually give the TI paranoid schizophrenia by causing these particular parts of their body to malfunction. Also, the C1, C3, and C4 parts of the spinal column, those parts of the spinal column are also responsible. The malfunctioning of those can also be linked to paranoid schizophrenia. So when you are attacked with all these ducks in a row, then manic episodes can be likely in some TIs. So basically, in that video, I talked about how paranoid schizophrenia and the diagnosis of it is ultimately useless in disproving what the TIs are saying. Because if you already have directed energy weapons in existence, if electromagnetic frequency weapons exist to the point where they can be homemade, and if you've got long-range acoustic devices that are partially designed for communication, and I also explained that in the last video, if you have all these things, right, and you know what their capabilities are, then having paranoid schizophrenia is a moot point, because all you need to do is to use any one of those weapons to cause malfunction in specific parts of the body or important parts of the endocrine system in order to create paranoid schizophrenia anyway. And then on top of that, with the gang stalking, with the harassment and the stalking, everything that I mentioned in the last video, with the harassment and the stalking, you can create a situation where it looks like you're going crazy, even though what's actually happening is that you're being lied to in real time. So all of these things together, you can create paranoid schizophrenia or you can fake paranoid schizophrenia. But paranoid schizophrenia does not disprove gang stalking. Throw that right out the window. Paranoid schizophrenia does not disprove abuse. In fact, if you look at some of the symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia, that can actually be brought about by physical and mental abuse anyway. So paranoid schizophrenia, as a rule, does not disprove, logically and reasonably, paranoid schizophrenia does not disprove gang stalking and never will disprove gang stalking. If you really think about it logically, paranoid schizophrenia does not disprove anything. I don't know if this time that, that Voldemort has an argument to refute that, but I'm not interested in what his arguments are, because this man I don't mind saying it. And if he's going to report my video, he can. What this man is a human trafficker with extra steps. If you are harassing somebody, if you acknowledge, or at least you pretend to acknowledge that targeted individuals have paranoid schizophrenia already, which already causes them distress, which already causes them great pain, which already affects their worldview and affects their ability to function. If you are acknowledging or pretending to acknowledge, if you're going to go along with this lie that paranoid schizophrenia has anything to do with whether or not targeting is real, if you're going to go along with this lie, then why are you sexually harassing people that you believe to have paranoid schizophrenia? Why are you hounding them for an interview? Why are you tagging them in videos when you specifically, when those people specifically said, leave me alone? Why do you continue to, to make race jokes, to make sex jokes, to have your followers cyber harass these so-called paranoid schizophrenics as well? Like, why do you? And on top of that, you've been diminishing the names of TIs as well. Didn't you title one of your videos to say there are no decent TIs? And that's a lie already, because I know several TIs who are really good, decent people. So that already is a lie. So on top of that, you're going to slander people that you, by your own, not even your own admission, you have let out of your mouth several times that TIs have paranoid schizophrenia. Why are you sexually harassing them? Why are you trying to trigger them? Why are you racially harassing them? Why do you have pictures of them that you're shooting at, please? Is that a part of some psychiatric treatment that I'm unaware of? If some psychiatric professionals can get on the live or get in my comments on YouTube, help me out here. Is this a part of your treatment? Is a part of your treatment to sexually harass paranoid schizophrenics? Is that part of your medicinal treatment or your psychiatric treatment of paranoid schizophrenic patients? Is it part of your treatment to racially harass paranoid schizophrenic people? Is it part of your treatment to slander paranoid schizophrenic people? Is it part of your treatment to diminish abuse that has happened to paranoid schizophrenic people? Is all of that part of your treatment? Because Voldemort seems to think that it is. So I want you to come in the comments and tell me, is that part of the treatment? Is that part of the treatment? And if it helps paranoid schizophrenics get better, then in which ways do continuously shaming paranoid schizophrenics, how does that actually help their health? Perhaps professionals in the comments can explain it to me. How does that actually help their health? How does it actually help their health? These questions are important to ask. These questions are important to ask. And for the record, this is just a suggestion. This is just a suggestion. But I believe all targeted individuals should study into the physical aspects of mental illness. Forget how mental health appears to people. Forget how mental illness appears to people, because we've seen by the world that we live in that the appearance of mental health is not fucking reliable. It's revolved around functionality and not health. So I believe that TIs should study the biology of mental health, and exclusively the biology of mental health. Because once you study the biology of mental health, you will see how easily mental illnesses can be synthesized, especially with more advanced weaponry. And even with pharmaceuticals. Remember, we've got pharmaceuticals out there that are dopamine blockers. So get to know mental illness purely, and I mean purely, from a biological perspective. If you are a TI, you need to get to know mental illness purely from a biological perspective. What parts of the body malfunctioning can make you vulnerable to mental health issues? Once you have that information in your back pocket, you can basically debunk not only that TIs automatically have paranoid schizophrenia, you can actually debunk that the presence of paranoid schizophrenia doesn't disprove abuse at all. Study the physical aspects of mental health. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to study the physical aspects, and I'm also going to study the effects that frequencies and, ultralight and ultrasound. I'm going to study the effects on how these things have an effect on the human body as well. I'm going to do my part. I'm not going to do it like cramming like books and shit. Just be like, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to research more into it. I've already been reading into magnetobiology. I haven't all the way completed that book yet, even though it's been years. So I implore all TIs to study the physiological effects of mental health, or at least the malfunctioning bodily, the bodily malfunctioning that creates mental health issues in people. Because judging by the bullshit that we're getting from the psychiatric profession, we cannot rely upon just looking at a person in order to ascertain whether or not they have mental illness. And we can no longer use mental illness as a parameter to determine whether or not the abuse that they're going through is actually real. So this is what I implore. Once again, I'm sure there's something else to add, but before I go, I'm going to repeat the point again, because this is very, very important for TIs to understand. We need to understand mental illness from a physical perspective, and only physical, at least at first. That's what we need to focus on, because once we understand that mental illnesses are basically due to the malfunction of the human body, they don't come out of a puff of smoke. They don't come out of a puff of smoke now. They come from the human body. Mental illness is the same thing as physical illness. In fact, it is physical illness. Study the biology of mental health. And when you study the biology of it, your targeting will start to make more sense. And then you can filter out to the more social aspects of the targeting, such as the NLP techniques, or, the mirroring techniques that they do, all that type of stuff. You can basically start from the biology outwards, and then you will understand more clearly how your targeting affects you. And you may actually be able to understand whether or not you're actually being targeted, because reducing it down to your biological essence, reducing targeting down to its biological essence, and then expanding outward, not only does it help you understand targeting more, it also helps you to ascertain whether or not you're actually being targeted from a logical perspective. So, for anyone who is a targeted individual, or for anyone who believes they are a targeted individual, study paranoid schizophrenia from a physical perspective. Do the same with any mental illness. Study it. Study the physiological aspects, where you physiologically malfunction when it comes to your mental health, and you will see that it all boils down to the same thing. If it doesn't boil down to stress, it boils down to abuse. So it doesn't disprove what you've gone through at all. Doesn't disprove any of it. If anything, it validates what you've gone through. We live in a world where, when it comes to the truth, you either play at opposites, or, what the truth is done by mainstream society is that it's taken apart and put into separate sections, so that the real truth as it is cannot be seen by everybody. And it's designed that way, and it's designed that way for a reason. People are spoon-fed the truth, so that by the time they understand exactly what's happened, they can't do anything about it because it's already too late. But you don't have to do that. You can focus on a core nucleus, and the core nucleus is the biological aspects of mental illness. Start there. And then you will realize it doesn't matter how mad people think or say you are, it doesn't disprove the abuse. In fact, if anything, it proves beyond doubt that abuse and stress bombarded upon you is absolutely responsible for your mental health issues anyway, even if you're not a TI. Baby, I'm just saying, for anybody who's a TI or who thinks they are a TI, study the biological effects of mental illness. I guarantee you, those weapons you have in your arsenal, they might be able to save the lives of a lot of people, or at least prolong the lives of a lot of people. We got TIs out here dropping like flies, man. We need to mobilize. We need to mobilize. Enough with this. Enough with the fucking Voldemorts of the world. These human traffickers with extra steps, thinking that they can come up in here and talk smack and think that, you know, driving us crazy with their stupidity. No, we can't have them thinking that the power lies with these fucking yokels. The power lies with us, and it's always lied with us. That's why they come after us so hard. Take the power back. Let them call you crazy. Study what crazy means from a biological perspective, and then arm yourself with that knowledge. Let them come back to you with some bullshit about delusion, only for you to come back to them with more information than qualified professionals are given. Let them have it. Let them fucking have it. Even qualified professionals can't argue with some of the stuff that I come up with, let alone people like Voldemort. What the fuck does he have to say? Oh, I believe in science. Bollocks. Bollocks. You're a human trafficker with extra steps. You're not even hiding it. Like who has this much energy for trying to disprove people who you say are already vulnerable? Like, fuck off. Arm yourselves, my fellow TIs. Oh, Lauren. Oh, I've missed her. Damn it. Oh, Lauren. Okay, I'm going to respond to her in a minute. Oh, here we go. All right. So let me respond to Lauren real quick. Okay, so yeah, that's what you do. That is what you do. You make sure that you are armed with the knowledge of biological effects of mental illness. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but that might be all you need. If they're gonna call you crazy, and if they're gonna hound you over, you know, what you're going through, and they're gonna try to shut you down, make them pay for it. Make them pay for it, and they will. You know what I mean? Make that word mad mean something. Make that word crazy mean something. Embarrass them. Embarrass them. Make them feel as hopeless as we do. And all we have to do is get our information together. That's all we have to do. And we don't have to cram anything in overnight like that. Little by little. Little by little. That's all it takes. So with that in mind, I'm going to go. Thank you, my fellow TIs, for joining me. Once again, even though I'm making a video in response to a video that I haven't watched, I don't care to, understand that this video is actually for TIs and for TIs alone. It's not for the Voldemorts of this world. It's not for the human traffickers with extra steps of this world. It's for the people who actually want to save lives. It's for the people who actually want to save their own lives and who actually, you know, aren't cunts. That's who this video is for. Okay? I love you guys so much. Peace and blessings. Mwah. Bye-bye.